Ukraine possibly part of negotiations between Russia and the US. Senegal minister undertakes two-day visit to Malaysia. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Mona Priya. The state visit of His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia, to Russia marked a significant milestone in strengthening bilateral relations between the two nations. His Majesty is the first Malaysian head of state to make a state visit to Russia since diplomatic relations were established in 1967. The six-day visit, held at the invitation of Russian President Vladimir Putin, concluded yesterday. During an official meeting at the Kremlin, Sultan Ibrahim described Russia as a trusted and important partner for Malaysia. He expressed confidence that the spirit of friendship between the two nations will continue to build a partnership that benefits the people of both countries. President Putin, in turn, noted the strong political dialogue between Moscow and Kuala Lumpur, supported by ongoing cooperation across various government agencies. He also praised Malaysia's active role in the Russia Islamic World Strategic Vision Group, a platform he called effective in fostering mutual understanding and cooperation between Russia and Muslim-majority countries. As part of the state visit, Sultan Ibrahim also travelled to Kazan, the capital of the Republic of Tatarstan. There, he highlighted the vast potential for increased cooperation in sectors such as petrochemicals, innovation, Islamic finance, and the halal industry. The historic visit is seen as a significant milestone in elevating Malaysia-Russia relations to new heights. A U.S. official said Ukraine could be part of negotiations between the U.S. and Russia. This development came as European leaders pushed for Kyiv's inclusion ahead of talks between Presidents Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. The two leaders will meet in the U.S. state of Alaska Friday to try to resolve the three-year war. However, the EU has insisted that Kyiv and European powers should be part of any deal to end the conflict. Leaders from France, Germany, Italy, Poland, Britain and Finland, along with EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen, issued a joint statement on the war in Ukraine. They said the path to peace in Ukraine cannot be decided without Ukraine. Leaders of the Nordic and Baltic countries, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway and Sweden also said no decisions should be taken without Kyiv's involvement. Talks on ending the war could only take place during a ceasefire, they added in a joint statement. EU foreign ministers will discuss the talks in a meeting by video link on Monday, joined by their Ukrainian counterpart. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker said on Sunday that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky could attend this week's U.S.-Russia summit in Alaska. The idea of a U.S.-Russia summit without Zelensky has raised concerns that a deal would require Kyiv to cede swaths of territory, which the EU has rejected. President Donald Trump pledged to evict homeless people from the nation's capital and jail criminals. This is despite Washington's mayor arguing that there is no current spike in crime. While details of the plan were unclear, the administration is preparing to deploy hundreds of National Guard troops to Washington, a controversial tactic Trump used recently in Los Angeles to tackle immigration protests. Trump has not made a final decision, the official said, adding that the number of troops and their role are still being determined. Unlike in California and every other state, where the governor typically decides when to activate Guard troops, the president directly controls the National Guard in Washington, D.C. Past instances of the Guard's deployment in the city include in response to the 6th January 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol by a mob of Trump supporters. The homeless have to move out immediately, Trump posted on his Truth Social platform. The White House declined to explain what legal authority Trump would use to evict people from Washington. There are 3,782 single persons experiencing homelessness on any given night in the city of about 700,000, says the Community Partnership, an organization working to reduce homelessness in DC. Most such individuals are in emergency shelters or transitional housing rather than on the street. China is pressuring the US to ease export restrictions on advanced computer chips, a key sticking point ahead of a possible summit between Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping. Chinese officials have told experts in Washington that they want the Trump administration to lift controls on high-bandwidth memory chips, or HBM chips, which are essential for artificial intelligence. These chips are used to power data-heavy AI tasks, often alongside high-performance graphic processors like those made by NVIDIA. Beijing is particularly concerned that current restrictions are hurting Chinese tech giants like Huawei in their efforts to build competitive AI capabilities. Successive U.S. administrations have imposed chip export limits to slow China's progress in AI and military tech. But the controls have also limited American companies' access to China, one of the world's largest semiconductor markets, even as demands continue to surge. United Nations ambassadors slammed Israel's plan to take control of Gaza City during an emergency session of the Security Council on Sunday. European representatives at the UN said famine was unfolding in Gaza and Israel's plan would only make things worse. Malnutrition is widespread in the enclave, which international aid agencies attribute to what they call a deliberate effort by Israel to restrict humanitarian aid. The head of the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Ramesh Rajasingham, described the recent developments as a grave escalation of the ongoing war.
I'm extremely concerned over the prolonged conflict, the reports of atrocities and further human toll that is likely to unfold following the government of Israel's decision to expand military operations in Gaza. This marks a grave escalation in the conflict that has already inflicted unimaginable suffering. Now, for over 670 days, Palestinians in Gaza have endured daily killings and injuries. More than 61,000 people have been killed.
Reiterated its condemnation of the Netanyahu plan, while the U.S. representative defended Netanyahu, saying Washington was committed to addressing humanitarian needs, freeing the hostages and achieving peace. 5 more people, including 2 children, died of malnutrition and starvation in Gaza over the past 24 hours. Gaza's health ministry said, taking the number of deaths from such causes to 217, including 100 children. And in a related development, China firmly opposes any attempt to take over Gaza. Fu Chong, China's permanent representative to the UN, on Sunday said that the Security Council and the international community must take decisive and necessary actions before an even greater humanitarian disaster erupts. Fu stressed that China is firmly opposed to any attempt to occupy Gaza. Fu stressed the need to abandon the use of force mindset, saying only an immediate ceasefire can effectively save more lives and create conditions for the release of hostages. He stressed that countries with influence on Israel should uphold a fair and responsible attitude and actively promote a ceasefire. The Chinese envoy said that alleviating the humanitarian disaster in the Gaza Strip is urgent. He stressed that reviving the prospect of two-state solution remains the only viable solution to the Palestinian question for achieving peaceful coexistence between Palestine and Israel. China will continue to work with the international community to end the fighting in Gaza, alleviate the humanitarian crisis, and strive to achieve a comprehensive, just, and lasting solution to the Palestinian question. Now, trucks loaded with aid entered from the west of Gaza's Beit Lahia on Sunday, where displaced people gathered for collection. Displaced Palestinians carried bags of flour and other goods as they walked miles to bring food to their families. Close to 200 Palestinians have died of starvation in Gaza since the war began. Nearly half of them were children, according to Gaza's state ministry. The health ministry of Gaza also said that more than 61,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel's assault on Gaza. 98 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli fire across the enclave in the past 24 hours. On Friday, the World Food Programme, WFP, called on Israel to allow at least 108 trucks per day into Gaza, noting that only 60 of its truck drivers have been vetted and approved by the Israeli military to date. The 100 trucks per day that the organization called for is a fraction of the 600 per day other UN agencies and Gaza authorities have said are needed to meet the basic needs of residents in the Strip. Israel's military killed Al Jazeera journalist Anas al-Sharif, whom it claimed headed a Hamas cell, in a strike on Gaza City on Sunday. The Qatari broadcaster said that 5 of its staff members were killed during the strike on a tent in Gaza City. Among those killed were Muhammad Kirie, along with camera operators Ibrahim Zahir, Mohammad Nofal, and Momin Aliwa. The attack was the latest to see journalists targeted in the 22-month war in Gaza, with around 200 media workers killed over the course of the conflict, according to media watchdogs. Al-Sharif was one of the channel's most recognizable faces working on the ground in Gaza, providing daily reports in regular coverage. The Palestinian Journalist Syndicate condemned what it described as a bloody crime of assassination. A press freedom group and a UN expert previously warned that al-Sharif's life was in danger due to his reporting from Gaza. UN Special Rapporteur Irene Khan said last month Israel's claims against him were unsubstantiated. In July, the Committee to Protect Journalists urged the international community to try to protect al-Sharif. Israel and Al Jazeera have had a contentious relationship for years, with Israeli authorities banning the channel in the country and raiding its offices following the latest war in Gaza. Senegal's Minister of African Integration and Foreign Affairs, Yassine Fall, will make a 2-day official visit to Malaysia, starting today, to strengthen bilateral relations. Malaysian Foreign Ministry, in a statement, said the visit reciprocates the official visit by Foreign Minister Dato' Sri Mohammed Hassan to Senegal in May 2024. She is scheduled to pay courtesy calls on Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim and Foreign Minister Dato' Sri Mohammed Hassan, who will also host a luncheon in her honor. The two foreign ministers are expected to take stock of progress in bilateral cooperation, with emphasis on enhancing collaboration in key areas such as trade and economy, education, health, the halal industry, and capacity building. They are also expected to discuss and exchange views on regional and international issues of mutual interest, including developments in the Middle East and West Africa. During a visit, Fall is scheduled to meet Plantation and Commodities Minister Dato' Sri Johari Abdul Ghani, the Deputy Investment, Trade and Industry Minister Liu Chin Tong, and the Deputy Religious Affairs Minister Dr. Zulkifli Hassan. Malaysia and Senegal established diplomatic relations in 1986 and have since maintained cordial and constructive ties through cooperation at both bilateral and multilateral platforms. In 2024, Malaysia's total trade with Senegal reached 1.37 billion ringgit, with Malaysia's exports to Senegal valued at 1.35 billion ringgit and imports at 14.1 million ringgit. Coming up next, earthquake hits Turkey, killing at least one person. A 6.1 magnitude quake struck Sindirgi in western Turkey on Sunday, killing at least one person and injuring dozens more. The quake was felt across several cities in the west of the country, including Istanbul and the tourist hotspot of Izmir. Turkish Interior Minister Ali Yerkalia said an 81-year-old person died soon after having been rescued from under the rubble. Another 29 people have been injured, but not seriously. The quake collapsed 16 buildings in Sindirgi and its surroundings, of which 4 were inhabited, including a 3-story building in the city centre. Several people were pulled alive from the rubble of the 3-story building where 6 people were living. The person who died has also been buried under the rubble there before being freed. Turkish Disaster Management Agency AFED confirmed some 319 first responders were deployed to the affected zone. The quake hit at 7:53 p.m. with some 20 aftershocks ranging from 3.5 to 4.6 magnitude, according to AFED. Turkey is crisscrossed by several geological fault lines which have previously caused catastrophes in the country. A quake in February 2023 in the southwest killed at least 53,000 people and devastated Antakya. Liu Jianchao, a senior Chinese diplomat widely seen as a potential future foreign minister, has been taken away by authorities for questioning. The Wall Street Journal on Sunday reported Liu was taken away after returning to Beijing in late July from an overseas work trip, citing people familiar with the matter. China's State Council Information Office, which handles media queries for the Chinese government, and the Chinese Communist Party International Liaison Department did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Liu, 61, has led the Communist Party's body in charge of managing ties with foreign political parties. Since taking the role in 2022, he has traveled to more than 20 nations and met officials from more than 160 countries. He has served in China's mission to Britain and later as ambassador to Indonesia and the Philippines. He has also led various national and regional bodies tasked with implementing President Xi Jinping's signature crackdown on corruption. EV giant Tesla is set to open a second showroom in India's capital, New Delhi, on Monday, days after its official entry into the Indian market in Mumbai. Curious residents took a peek at the Tesla cars in the New Delhi showroom on Sunday ahead of the official opening. The company launched its first showroom in the financial capital in July. India is the world's 3rd largest car market, but electric vehicles comprise a very small slice, with many potential buyers concerned about the country's charging infrastructure and inaccessible charge points. Tesla is selling the Model Y cars in India at a starting cost of about $67,770, according to the Tesla website. As Tesla gears up for busy roads still ruled by cars fueled by diesel and petrol, it will go head-to-head primarily with German luxury giants like BMW and Mercedes-Benz in the premium EV segment. Billionaire Elon Musk's EV company is braving high tariffs and stiff competition in India's nascent but rapidly expanding EV market. As New Delhi negotiates a trade deal with the US, India's car sector tariffs, arguably among the highest in the world, are a central topic. More than 1,000 people were evacuated on Sunday in northwest Spain as wildfires spread, fueled by scorching temperatures and strong winds. Around 400 people were displaced in and around the town of Carucedo, and another 700 from several towns near the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Las Medulas, a former Roman gold mining area known for its striking red landscape. The head of the regional government of Castile and Leon, Alfonso Manueco, said experts suspect several of the blazes were set by arsonists. Spain's Military Emergency Unit, UME, has deployed nearly 60 soldiers and 20 vehicles to the area, joining a large firefighting operation that includes aircraft and bulldozers working to create fire breaks. Firefighters said scorching temperatures, low air humidity levels, and strong winds were complicating their efforts to put out the flames. Wildfires were also affecting the northern regions of Galicia and Navarre as Spain endures a heat wave which is entering its second week with temperatures nearing 40 degrees Celsius in many regions. The extreme heat is expected to last at least until Thursday. Civil protection authorities have warned of a high to extreme wildfire risk across much of the country. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez wrote on X that he was closely following the wildfires and thanked emergency teams for their tireless efforts. Dozens of Afghan refugees, including women, children and the elderly, gathered at the Shaman border in Pakistan's Balochistan on Sunday as they waited to cross into Afghanistan amid a crackdown on documented refugees. Pakistan has given 1st of September as the deadline for all documented Afghan refugees to leave. Their deportation had already started ahead of the deadline, according to the UNHCR. Pakistan's repatriation plan has drawn criticism from rights groups. Over 2.1 million Afghans have already fled back this year, overwhelming Afghanistan's collapsed economy. Despite a supposed grace period, evictions continued, leaving refugees in legal limbo. Pakistani authorities have said that Islamabad wants all Afghan nationals to leave except those who have valid visas. The repatriation drive by Pakistan is part of a campaign called the Illegal Foreigners Repatriation Plan, launched in late 2023. In addition to the repatriation from Pakistan, Afghanistan also faces a fresh wave of mass deportations from Iran. Aid groups worry that the influx risks further destabilizing the country. A large wildfire broke out on Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh on Sunday, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky and spreading rapidly across the historic site. The blaze erupted on the slopes of the extinct volcano, which towers over Scotland's capital and is a well-known spot for hikers and tourists. Arthur's Seat is the highest point of Holyrood Park, near Scotland's Parliament and the end of Edinburgh's famous Royal Mile. About 250 meters above sea level, it is a popular vantage point with visitors for its views of the city. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service confirmed crews were at the scene battling the flames. Police have urged both motorists and pedestrians to avoid the area for safety. The incident comes during one of the city's busiest months. Among the major events happening in Edinburgh this month are the Edinburgh International Festival, the Fringe Comedy Festival, and a highly anticipated reunion tour by rock band Oasis. Still to come in sports, Crystal Palace beats Liverpool to lift Community Shield. FA Cup winners Crystal Palace beat Premier League champions Liverpool 3-2 on penalties to win the Community Shield after an entertaining 2-2 draw at Wembley on Sunday. Substitute Justin Devaney scored the winning spot kick to give Palace the spoils after Mohamed Salah, Alexis McAllister and Harvey Elliott missed for the Reds. New recruit Hugo Ekitike had put Liverpool ahead inside 4 minutes before Jean-Philippe Mateta levelled from the penalty spot in the 17th for Palace after Virgil van Dijk brought down Ismail Assar. Close season signing Jeremy Frimpong restored the Reds' lead as Liverpool fans marked the death of Portugal forward Diogo Jota with 20 minutes on the clock, sending an attempted cross looping in off the post. But Palace equalised again with 13 minutes to play, Sarr slotting past on-rushing goalkeeper Alisson to send the traditional season curtain raiser to penalties.
I think after the 90 minutes, it was a game where both teams were more or less on the same level, and this makes us proud against Liverpool, against the champion of the Premier League.
Barcelona's team for the 2025-2026 season were presented to fans at the Johan Cruyff Stadium ahead of their John Camper Trophy friendly against Italian outfit Como on Sunday. With new signing Marcus Rashford among the squad's presentation, club captain Marc-Andre ter Stegen addressed fans, stressing how important it was for him and the club to work out their issues. Barcelona reinstated ter Stegen as first-team captain on Friday after announcing that the German goalkeeper had authorized the club to send out his medical report. The announcement came after ter Stegen hit back at suggestions that he is to blame for Barcelona's inability to register new players, insisting that his back surgery and recovery timeline were fully approved by the club. The German's 3-month rehabilitation created an unexpected headache for Barcelona, who had asked him to sign a long-term medical leave that would allow them to clear 80% of his wages until mid-season and comply with La Liga's financial fair play rules, thereby allowing them to register new players. But ter Stegen's announcement on social media that he would be sidelined for only 3 months irked the club management, as La Liga rules require a player to remain out of action for at least 4 months to be considered a long-term injury. The disagreement led to the 33-year-old being stripped of the Spaniard Carlos Alcaraz bounced back from a mid-match slump to down Bosnian Damir Zumhur 6-1, 2-6, 6-3 in the second round of the Cincinnati Open on Sunday. World number 2 and second seed Alcaraz, who has reached the finals of his last 6 tournaments, next faces Serbian Hamad Medjedovic. After a routine start, Alcaraz racked up an uncharacteristic number of unforced errors in the second set before regaining his composure and closing out the match off a long Zumhur return. With errors creeping in and his intensity dipping, Alcaraz opened the door for a surging Zumhur, who began charging the net and taking control of the rallies to level. Alcaraz crucially regrouped in the decider, finding just enough firepower and precision to steady the ship and close out the match after 1 hour 41 minutes. Alcaraz looked primed to match his rival Sinner's efficiency, racing through the first set in just 28 minutes. However, the defending champion Sinner barely hit a bump against Daniel Ilahi Galan. Alcaraz was competing for the first time since he lost to Sinner in the pair's latest meeting in the Wimbledon final. And that wraps up World Today this time around. In our top story, Ukraine possibly part of negotiations between Russia and the US. For business news updates, do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or Saluran Berita RTM. Now, before we leave, let's take a look at visuals of the Medellin Flower Festival in Colombia, showcasing the Silatera tradition. Till then, I'm Mona Priya, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat Disantuni.